Bring it on.
And you're very educated. You ready?
Yeah.
So I love that term, think tank. Think tank. You know what a think tank is? Like, how's a think tank go, James?
Yeah, they got cancel culture nowadays. You gotta watch what you say. It's getting real scary out here.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know if I can take the conversation here, but we might as well. It's the Rethink Tank. Looks like you had a little bit too much to think here in the Rethink Tank. Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for joining us again, because we got so entrenched in the fun conversation the last time. My friend David bestowed upon me an envelope of tons of great topics. We addressed 2 of them. So, and really it was just one card pull that combined 2 of them. So I would like to rapid fire.
All right,
I think here's the goal. Let me introduce my guest, the intellectual David Cunningham. How are you, my friend?
Ooh, that might be selling me a little high. So
well, but also
I appreciate that, though.
Out of the guests, I do need to at least concede, I really appreciate it. Feels like having a sparring partner. Like there's somebody that actually, whether we agree or not, is coming from a logical place that can defend it.
Oh, yeah.
So let's
attacking
wrestle.
you, I'm talking to you.
Right, exactly. Boom.
Yeah.
So let's cognitively wrestle. Let's spar a little bit more.
Okay.
So, like I said, he gave me this envelope of great topics. I'm going to try to hold because you caught me in the last episode.
We caught
jumped
each other
in.
in the last
I got
one.
I got excited.
Yeah, we did.
So
did.
I'm going to pull your topic, give you the floor.
All right.
You flush out your position on it.
Okay.
And then I'll address it. I'm going to try my best not to interject as you express.
We'll try not to make this a full-fledged
But
episode
I
of
am
another
only human, and I have major weaknesses. Okay, so I'm just pulling around, and these topics are amazing.
Random.
Okay. Every law should have a sunset clause, the definition of which, in public policy, a sunset provision or sunset clause is a measure within a statute, regulation, or other law that provides that the law to cease to be effective after a specified date, unless further legislation or legislative action is taken to extend it.
Yes. Absolutely, I agree with this. Every law, even the more controversial ones like Social Security, Medicare. So I don't think we live in a political reality where Social Security is going to come up for vote and all of a sudden are they going to downgrade it? Now, there's been some talk about shifting Social Security around, or I don't know. I'd like to pinpoint more than one.
What was the other one? Social Security and what else?
Medicare.
That's it. Okay, go ahead.
I know there was that one Republican politician that went out there and said, I don't think he even said repeal Social Security. I think he just said we need to adjust it and so forth. I don't think he ever said we're going to get rid of it. I don't think there might be a very rare politician who comes out and says that, but that's not the majority of Congress. And if it were ever to come up to a vote, I think the majority of Congress is still going to vote for it. But it's all these unpopular bills. So we have in the newest infrastructure package, one of my least favorite bills ever, the drunk driving provision. This one I'm pretty hot on, because not only does this make just automobiles a bit more expensive, but also it goes against the fundamental principle of criminal law in this country, which is you're innocent until proven guilty.
Sure.
And for a government and to regulate a particular automobile industry, and I don't even know, I think the crux of this bill might have been a little bit of the automobile industry and a little bit of special interest groups. But they threw in there, it's only about 2 lines, and it says that the Department of Transportation has the authority to be able to research the ability to put in drunk driving provisions in automobiles starting in, I think, 2026. So starting 2026, because I don't see this not going through its full provision. That's going to dramatically affect the way we drive our cars here in the future. So
Sure.
You have, I think the majority of Americans can have one drink, one bottle of wine with their dinner, one bottle of wine, one beer with their date. You have one. How are they going to...
You notice the difference between one beer and one bottle of wine.
Oh, did I say bottle of wine? That's probably because I might have had one whiskey.
But I was also going to say, to me, one serving size of wine is a bottle. And anybody that says otherwise is lying to themselves.
It goes, so what I figured out with wine is, a bottle of wine fits 2 pint glasses.
No way.
That's how me and my wife drink wine. It's just out of 2 pint glasses. So when we were
it
dating,
also goes to show the potency of the subject
here.
here.
Absolutely. So when we were first dating, we just had 2 pint glasses. I'm thinking, oh god, we got a bunch of these here. Nope, it's 2. 2 pint glasses is a bottle of wine. I guess you could always look at a bottle of wine and go, it's this many milliliters and do that, but it doesn't put it in perspective. When you have 2 pint glasses, that's just like 2 drinks.
I love, what was the Johnny Depp joke? Like 1 pint of wine? What was his shtick that he said during the trials? Somebody in the comments go down there, but he was like, one... It was something just like that, like a pint of wine. You're like, wait, excuse me, what?
Excuse me, yeah.
A pint?
Yeah.
You may have been drunk in that video, correct?
There's a possibility of that, yes, sir.
You poured yourself a mega pint of red wine, correct?
A mega pint?
Yeah.
I poured myself a large glass of wine.
Right.
I thought it necessary.
You say a pint of wine's not bad.
Dude, if I were to take this glass and fill it with wine, it's like here, respectively.
Yeah.
But also, when I'm playing poker with my friends, it's a full glass. Like, when it's my wine and I'm not at a... If you go to a vineyard, you're getting the vine pour.
Well, they're regulating you what you can have. When it's, not even if it's your wine, if it's someone else's wine, I want a full glass. It's your wine, I want a full glass. And I guess, and I expect you to feel the same way. It's like, well, it's your wine.
But again, socially, a full glass is like to where the crest of the cup turns. It's like, no, I want that full.
Yep.
Full the glass.
Give it to me raw. Because I had...
Give it to me raw.
Yeah. So we went to we had this habit of doing this the whole time. And we went to like a nice wine place in downtown Columbus, and they're like, "Well, how many glasses do you want?" Like, can you just give me 2 pint glasses? And he's like, "What?" It's like, what? Yeah,
you ordered that?
I ordered that, and I was, I should have probably thought about this before I said it, but it's one of those things you're in the heat of the moment, like, can I have 2 pint glasses?
I just did it last night. Just go ahead.
Why does this guy want 2 pint glasses for his $30 bottle of wine? I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. But anyway, back to the drunk driving provision. So
I was about to say, it's the sunset clause.
I'm not an alcoholic, but this is definitely not helpful. It just makes things more expensive. It's just thinking it's the government or automobile industry thinking you are a liability and we need to keep you off the road. And it's an unpopular thing to campaign against.
And you're saying drinking alcohol? Like the alcohol limit?
No. So being against the drunk driving clause. So most people go, well, do you want to eradicate drunk driving? Yes. This is one of those measures, and it's very invasive.
Wait, explain the clause then. I'm sorry.
So the clause is you have the provision in the infrastructure bill allows the Department of Transportation to be able to come up with a committee to formulate a way to implement a drunk driving, so if you...
Legislation.
Not necessarily legislation, because legislation's already there.
Okay.
To have, not necessarily a breathalyzer, but something of the same ilk in automobiles starting 2026. And that was in the...
Wait. Like a breathalyzer in the vehicle?
Breathalyzer could be one of those, but it's not necessarily... It could be like a camera system.
So wait, you're saying it's a clause that creates a committee...
Yep.
Which then again would be outside of our legislation, that can create any type of law that impedes or at least infringes on your licensed rights to drive a car?
Probably not the way you phrase it, but yes. More or less, you have it. The simple way to put it is every car is going to have a breathalyzer system in the car in 2026.
Insane.
Yep, and it's only 2 or 3 lines in that bill. And that bill has several thousand pages.
Don't you love how they play that game?
Yeah, I don't like it. So this is something that should have a sunset clause. I'm not against.
So I like your
Radical
point.
policy,
So
okay.
if you ever sneak something in on us,
Yeah.
you should have to continue to pass it.
Yep.
You snuck it in once.
Yep.
Now you got to continue to win over the American public.
Yeah, and I think
like that.
and I think that should be for every law. You'll see that the cream rises to the top.
But do you? This is the only place I wanted to push back when I was putting together the topics that you proposed.
All right.
I love that presentation. I think if you're going to make any law, you should be able to show that you have continued support from the public, not just a support at a
Absolutely.
certain time.
Absolutely.
On balance, the topic is every law should have a sunset clause.
Every law.
So that means we are redebating slavery, redebating murder,
Yep.
redebating having sex with children, which those pedophiles running our country would love.
Well, let me pause.
I'm
you
sorry,
there.
minor attracted persons. We got to respect them.
Let me pause you there, though. How many politicians coming out saying I love children?
Oh, they're not coming out. They're just coming in the children. They're coming in the children and benefiting from it. That's them. That's the people running your country. Yeah, the dead guy, the one that just got caught sniffing another child 3 days ago?
It's a little odd.
That guy? Yeah. Those are the ones. The ones that are getting billions of dollars from Ukraine who are also giving billions. Yeah. Those are the ones. Those are the ones coming in children.
What are they passing?
I mean,
onto, into,
Yeah.
same difference. But are they passing laws to be able to do that?
They're definitely, let's agree, we're finding the first pierce of the armor.
Yep.
We got to socially change people. So these are their truths.
Yeah.
They're minor attracted persons. Respect them. They are the next letter to follow the plus. They said that was never going to be the case, and here we are. So first comes social change, then comes real political change.
Well, just like the conservative, or just like the liberals will say, like everyone's a Nazi, everyone's a fascist. I think the conservatives are kind of doing that a little bit with the pedophilia. So
I disagree. The most traded entity in the world, not America, in the world, is children. That's the thing.
Is it children or is it sex? And is children part of that sex? I think it might be sex.
Okay, there are more slaves today than ever before in human history, and the majority of them are children. So whether or not the trade is sex, the vast majority of slaves in the world are children. And while they are being enslaved to mine your lithium for your iPhone, the majority of those slaved children are getting railed by your politicians. And it may not be our politicians, but it's the politicians of the world. So is it Asiago Cortez? No.
Probably not.
Is it a couple powerful people in her party that also affiliate with the Emirates leaders and the Asian leaders and the European leaders? That there is no doubt of what Prince Andrew is doing. I'm not talking American politicians, but I am talking tip of the spear politicians across the globe. That is a thing. But again, you and I are having a discourse about one of those crimes.
Yeah.
I don't think there is a debate. If you ever took on the homework to go watch Sounds of Freedom, you will leave there going, kill pedophiles.
Oh, yeah.
There's no room for them.
Yeah.
I don't need to. Here's the thing.
Yep.
I don't care if the rainbow people do a good enough job at convincing the public. I refuse to live in a world where even if 95% of us want to sleep with consenting children, at least my understanding of biology is deeper than theirs to understand I don't care that they give consent. It needs to be illegal in my world. Yeah. So, in my world, that doesn't need to be rehashed. Law is law. Murder does not need to be rehashed. For me and you to live in a community, for us to be in a tribe, you literally can't kill me or my wife. We cannot be neighbors if you can kill your neighbor.
Oh, yeah.
I can't live in a society where that's even up for debate.
Well, no,
we have to just
well,
have
I mean,
bedrock
part
laws.
of the definition of being in a society is living
Having
under,
bedrock laws.
Yeah, living under a structured rule set.
So you can't say all of them need to be renegotiated. We need to have terms that are just bedrock.
Well, where do you draw the line at the terms then?
Well, so the only thing I disagreed with this position is that every law should be a sunset law. Mm-hmm. But then I would make the argument that some need to be reconsidered and that some are bedrock innate. But then you, as an intellectual person, would go, who determines one way or the other if it's something that should be bedrock or something that should be debated, and what makes them the authority on that matter? Yep. I agree. So let's also agree, maybe you have a point here, talking it out. Yeah. You might have something here, because if we had a council of people debating pedophilia, there really isn't much. We all agree.
Yeah, it's not.
We all agree no murder. We all agree no murder. We move on.
Yeah.
The debate comes into, should we give welfare programs? Okay, well, let's debate this one program. Yep. I agree with you that, but I also think government doesn't have the time or resources, this is being real, right, to debate every law over again. Yep. That law that's been created doesn't get debated again until its precedent is brought into question in a courtroom. Mm-hmm. That means you, nuanced human, brought in one scenario we never thought of, and that changed it.
Yeah. Or even just like the abortion situation. Yeah. So I think the topics.
Do you want that rehashed every 5 years?
Yeah, it would depend on how you want.
That'd fucking break us.
Yeah, that'd be a hard one. That definitely would be a tough one. And we're already kind of having it now, and it's a debate. So this also goes hand in hand with single issue voting as well. Because under the way I've written this, the chink in this armor is, well, I guess we're just going to repass the Infrastructure Act. So if we can't have any infrastructure, we're not. If by the way my thing's written, we can't have more infrastructure spending if we can't also have drunk driving provision.
So let's get to the narrative you attach to that, which is single issue voting is the quickest way we can get back on track as a country.
Yes,
I totally agree with that.
Yep. So this is going to be a circle jerk,
right?
But so we have these large bills, and there's thousands of pages, and you have politicians come out and say, I can't read all of these. I have my 10, 15 pages I'm concerned about, and then everything else is like, well, I guess it's whatever. Does this scream we need to go back to federalism a little bit? Because if I'm only caring about my portion of it, well, shouldn't that just be a state problem then versus a federal issue? And when it comes to funding, military and such, yeah, you're going to have to vote on some of the way the budget provisions are. But at a certain point, we're going to start seeing a lot of these bills because of the Jesus, what am I saying? Filibuster.
Yes.
Because of the filibuster, we're going to not try to pass laws
which they're trying to get rid of currently.
They are trying to get rid of it, but I'm against getting rid of the filibuster unless
I'm with you.
Single issue voting. So if it's single issue voting, now I'm all right. Okay, I know where you stand. Because the problem with the
filibuster is, let's to flesh out what you're articulating.
Yeah.
The filibuster as it stands is not to defeat a single issue, but to defeat this giant mass bill that you've snuck in 50 different problems.
Yep.
That's what I have to stop 50 things because you won't even let me address one of them individually. It's like a dam. I have to have the ability to throw up a dam because it isn't a steady, conscious stream that we can monitor and actually digest. It's almost undigestible whereas it sits, so you have to dam it.
And I think I bet if you're to really inspect some of these bills, they're going to contradict each other to a certain extent. Because you have all these different interests trying to write the same bill to pass at the same time that are going to contradict each other in a little bit. And I'm surprised we haven't seen a little bit more of that, but I bet that probably goes down to a little bit more on state policy. Some of these bills just go down to it's just relevant to Tennessee or Arkansas or North Dakota versus California and New York. So, but with the filibuster, if you do single issue voting, I know where you stand. And I can hold you accountable to where you stand. Because I don't necessarily think it's fair to hold a politician accountable to pass a large bill for one part you don't like. I can tell them I don't like that, but there could be other things, and that's always the easy way out. It's like, well, I don't like the drunk driving provision, but we have more bridges in your state. Do you not like those?
Right.
That's always the easy answer to come to. And also with the filibuster too, we need to hold our politicians a little more accountable to actually do the filibuster. Yeah. Anymore, it's just, well, we can't do the filibuster.
I tried my best.
We're just going to go home. Like, can you actually try to get it through? If I was doesn't matter which political party I'm part of, you're going to do it. Yeah. You're going to do it. There's no gentleman's agreement here. Go do it. We're going to pass it or you're not. Right. And I'm shocked we're not getting that, which just shows that Washington's a little more in sync than I think a lot of us want.
They are fingers to the same hand. Yeah. I say that all the time.
Two sides of the same coin.
Yes, 100%. I want my biggest point in regards to the single issue voting is the quickest way we can get back on track as a country. I do not believe we are binary, red or blue, R or D. Mm-hmm. You are one team or the other. What I think is there is a plethora of issues. Guns, economy, border control, welfare, everything, abortion, and not one of those topics has to do with the other. Your opinion on abortion does not in any way have to be tied to your opinion of gun rights. They are so different. Yeah. But we are forced in a binary. Yeah. And as a human, you have to look at this plethora of issues, find the issue that matters the most to you and your family, welfare, gun rights, whatever it is that stands out to you the most.
Single issue voter.
Boom. So what disarms the monopoly of our bipartisanship and also re-equips, this ain't no democracy, this is a representative republic. What makes that representative republic more representative of the direct issues of the public than giving them the ability to address each issue individually? Yeah. To me, that speaks volumes. I think that's the future. I'd like to live in a world where, I don't know if you've ever watched the show Orville. At the beginning of this show, the first season was like a Twilight Zone, where each one was like philosophical, gave its own moral message at the end. The show totally detached from that quickly. Okay. But in the first season, they have an episode where in the Orville is kind of like a comedic, Seth MacFarlane from Family Guy, he makes like a comedic version of, what's this show? I'm thinking of it. Star Trek. So he makes a comedic version of Star Trek. In an episode, there's this guy that's a part of the crew. The crew goes down to this planet, and they've never been to this planet. They're new to this planet, whatever, and they're trying to find somebody. And a crew member is trying to be silly and make a joke, and he jumps on a statue, and he's making a mockery of the statue, and he's like, ha, ha, boo, boo, boo. And all the people freak out, and they go, oh, my God, ah, ah, and they start recording him. Mm-hmm. He immediately gets arrested. In this world, he gets put up for his crimes, and there's a channel that, first off, it's a social credit score community. Okay. So everybody's got their own social credit score. You got to walk in line, say your thing, and you got to
get in ties here.
Do your thing to increase your social credit score, whatever. Anyway, the coffee shop, people in their homes, everybody has this TV channel running. The TV channel is a host that brings in a criminal, explains the crime, and then the whole tribe votes like Rome. Yeah. up or down, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yep.
And I have an affection for that world because I don't trust the government and I want as much direct representation as possible. But what does that world totally rely on? The virtue and trustworthiness of the technology.
Yep.
So I want to live in a world where all of us can be polled on every subject. But then in America, that's going to be a third-party private corporation, and I got to trust that they don't have any constituents they owe to, that they have no bias involved, and that they're going to stay true to the process. And let's be real, we live in the real world with humans, and that just ain't real.
No, at a certain point when you decentralize power, it becomes, it goes backwards.
So how do we do that? How do you get a world where single issue voting, because it's the quickest way to put us back on track, how do you actually enable that in our community?
So it's still representative democracy. There's no direct. I think direct ballot initiatives are great, but you can't. I think you do single issue voting and direct ballot initiatives can't go hand in hand. Can't go hand in hand. You can't have that at the same time. You have to be able to separate it. There has to be some time, at least the way we designed the checks and balances within the federal government. You have to be able to allow time to be able to pass so things don't happen too quickly. Because if you get things too quickly, like a dictatorship or a direct democracy, then that's true fascism, true tyranny, true just majority rule. And we're not a majority rule country. We're protect the minority with the majority. It's protect the minority. That's the phrase. Something about majority rule, protect the minority, though.
Right.
So and
you see that with the Electoral College, right?
Yep.
We have that because we don't want Texas and California making all the decisions for Delaware and Connecticut.
No. You got to have. It just goes back into federalism. It just the whole political philosophy I have is just decentralization of power. You can't have
localized power.
Yep.
The more localized you make your power, the more direct the representation is, and the more the community will be reflected in its policies. I love that.
But you do have to have checks and balances to that. That is
True.
why we have a Constitution that are rights inalienable prior to the government, outside of the government, the ability to talk and defend yourself, or just I think the Constitution goes in order. Like the first 10, I don't necessarily think you can change any of those. Outside of that, letting women vote, probably good, but it's good. It's fine. We're all equal under the law, but definitely what I find wild too, we banned alcohol via the Constitution.
Isn't that crazy?
That is odd. That is wild.
Alcohol.
What was the political discourse at the time to be able to just?
Can I tell you what?
Go for it.
What is your understanding of manifest destiny? So if you go back in time in American history, during the Revolution and us expanding as a country, there was the narrative of manifest destiny, that it's America's destiny to take over this land, become independent, and be a land of freedom. Mm-hmm. The notion of manifest destiny, the fight and revolution against tyranny, and the promotion of freedom and individuality in a community totally was rooted, and I love this. This is the most beautiful part. Manifest destiny is what made America, and what promulgated and inbred manifest destiny, the topic or concept, into our community was the invention of newspapers at the same time as localized coffee shops.
Okay.
So what did they have? What equipped our country and pretty much built the foundation of what we are is the creation of the newspaper. So topics, that's the problem we have right now. You've got people in their echo chambers with 5 different newses and 5 different perspectives and 5 different realities. The beauty was at this time, there was one reality. There was one news. you disagreed with it, you saw through the propaganda, or you believed it and you thought everything about it was true. But that was released to the public at the same time that we had comfortable, socialized meeting places that we could kick back, have a drink, and actually debate those topics. Why did we get rid of what makes this podcast? I have a judge that I work for. He laughs. I have no problem saying this because he would wear it with his heart. That he goes, I love solving the world's problems with a glass of bourbon. Because are you really going to make real change? Come on, no. But the real change really only happen. They want to censor us. They want to divide us. They want you to hate your neighbor because this right here, you're going to learn quicker than ever that red team, blue team, white, black, gay, straight, trans or not, we pretty much agree on everything except for little nuances of the point. But you're only going to learn that if we sit down and have a dialogue. If I keep you in your separate corners and tell you what to think of the other person and what they think of you, and you never talk and you never have a meeting of the minds, then I control you. So why do I think it was such a priority that we put it in the Constitution? This isn't a law. This is a right. An amendment.
A right.
This is life-shattering. Because if you guys are talking at a time where I'm trying to make real change, that's dangerous. I think they disband alcohol because of what just like weed, just like mushrooms. They'll let you do meth. You can have fentanyl till you're blue in the face.
Yeah, that's what Adderall
But
is.
if you have mushrooms that kills your ego, we'd have a community of problems.
It's a new take on it.
There is something alcohol. Then why was if it wasn't because it brought people together and built a community that could possibly arm itself or feel compelled to stand up against the government, what other reason would there be to disband alcohol? There's only one, dude.
Hooligans.
Look at today. It's the most lucrative business you could have in America.
Oh, yeah.
Why would you get rid of the thing that brings you the dinero?
Yeah.
Weed wasn't a problem, as the newspaper said, because it made black men crave white women. It was a problem because, hippies used it, but also at the same time, it was a tool for promoting you to kind of think outside the box, think differently. The government has no investment in stopping a bat. You're having a good time? I don't like good times. In the same country where you can take a glass bottle full of gasoline and throw it in your bonfire, I really got a problem with you smoking a joint.
Yeah.
No, it's because it changed your perspective on things and made you possibly realize that the real enemy between the two of us, white, black, orange, and purple, is this guy that's collecting all of our taxes.
Might be the same reason why we were so hard against communism in the Vietnam War. We didn't want that to spread because it was a little too much workers' rights for what the government wanted. I always want to be a fly on the wall in some of these conversations.
Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be a lot of fun.
Because you know why you want it? Because I think you and I deep down know what comes of that. You really see the conversation where it's a grease ball going, I just don't want these people having the right. Like, you know what's said in that room.
Yeah.
And it ain't, well, what I really care about is the betterment of our community. And it's
anything
all
that would surprise me.
Exactly.
I want to reinforce what my feelings are on this. So it's, yeah. So I would love to be a fly on the wall in some of these conversations. Like, we got to get rid of communism. These workers are going to have too much rights, Starting to ask for too much pay.
Welcome to America.
Yeah.
All right, so in lieu of that, you kind of touched upon it. It's already a topic that we've addressed. So before we go back to the envelope, you made another comment talking about the automobile industry.
Oh, how the automobile's overregulated.
Yes, let's hear it.
And the reason for the costs.
Yes.
Cars are so expensive. Absolutely.
Cars are so expensive because of the regulation it takes to make automobiles. This is the most overregulated industry in the United States.
Yep. Absolutely. There's so many regulations that go in the automobiles when it comes to how bright the taillights need to be, to what distance they need to be apart, to all sorts of different factors that go into it. Now, part of, I think safety is innate to the sale of, like, successful automobiles are very safe, and I think it's part of the tactic. You know, if you're driving a car, you want a safe car. The only vehicle that kind of bucks that trend, Jeeps.
Oh, yeah.
Jeeps are, you know, if you ever see like crash test rating on the Jeeps, they don't really promote that because it's not very good.
You roll that thing, baby.
Yeah, it was. I don't think the new ones quite have that, but the old ones definitely do have that.
Yeah,
problem.
you're right.
The short body ones and then fall over. But you take what makes a Jeep a Jeep? You take the doors off, you take the roof off. It's a different vehicle. So those in the market are willing to do that. And I'm still shocked they're able to hit the regulations and still be able to actually do that, have that Jeep atmosphere. But I think the cost of transportations are just getting so high. Like cars are expensive. Even let's go pre-pandemic. You know, you go January 2020, the automobile industry. I don't want to say it was cheap, but definitely used cars were plentiful. New cars were at a price point. Everyone's kind of. They're competing. They're trying. They're going after it. They had a way that they're going to attack the market, and it was price or it was promotions or be able to finance you to be able to afford it. And then after the pandemic, what we realized is people still buy cars at very expensive prices, and
even if they can't afford it, they're gonna still sign up for it.
Even if they can't afford it, and sometimes they can't afford it, they just have to do it. Yeah. I have sympathy for the person that lives in a rural area that just needs to get from A to B because there's no public transport. It's not feasible to have public transport all across the United States. Just no way. You're just not.
But could we agree that would be the most ideal solve to this?
Oh, it would be
if we had mass public transportation that was safe, affordable, and convenient. Yep. The major thing here is convenience.
It's convenience. It's absolutely convenient.
So if you could make it ultra convenient. Again, instead of the traffic of, let's just say, 3,000 people trying to make it to downtown Cleveland every morning at 7 a.m., if all 3,000 of them could be on some centralized mode of transportation, it would save money. How those liberals be, we'd be saving the environment. Yeah. We'd be able to... For the most
part, they're electric.
There ain't no traffic. Nope. We'd be able to... make this more efficient.
You can promote a whole other different industry too by having that. Obviously,
but it isn't feasible.
It's not feasible the way we have our infrastructure set up right now, and it's probably not.
Do you think it's possible to rechange the infrastructure to get to that point, or no?
Not without really invoking eminent domain. So we already see.
There you go.
You already see people complain about how the highway system has made those poorer. It's separated communities.
Eminent domain is the government taking people's land because they claim to have the right to it.
Yep. And
interesting point.
Yep.
That's why you're a smart guy. You know that.
So you already have that.
That's a pretty. Hey. No, but you're onto something because the conspiracist in me is I go, why is nobody taking note on how all the billionaires are buying up all the real estate right now? Clearly, there's a bigger play going on that we can't even see. When I talk about that, there's something to be said about, it's kind of like playing the game Monopoly.
Yeah.
When you're first playing, there's spaces to be bought.
Yep.
We are now at a game in Monopoly. We are at the point in the game where all the spaces are bought.
Yep.
There is actually not a space that is still open.
Yep.
So the question begs, how do you traverse that landscape? But then on top of it, of course, everybody wants to be the people that owns land, that owns those spaces on the Monopoly board. Yeah. But that's only 1% of us. So there's this balance of how do you become a player in a world where all the spaces are bought for? And again, let's get to the crux of the point. There is no eminent domain that will be taken easily to where you could make an infrastructure across the country, because everybody owns everything, and nobody's giving it up.
Yeah, and they're not giving up. They're not giving up without a price. They're not giving up without a protest. It's just not feasible. So like when we see Columbus really likes their light rail system, and it'd be great. As a property owner, I would love to have any sort of major public transportation right next to my house, especially if it's rail. Mostly, really, if it's just rail. Busing, I don't know if busing actually increases property values next to the house, but rail does, absolutely. Like in Chicago, that main line that goes in and out of the city, anything that's around
Cleveland,
that rail.
that's why we lost to Chicago.
Oh, no, because we had the rail. Yep. But if you have the rail, that's absolutely. Anyone wants to be next to the rail because it's easy, convenient, and efficient, and it seems that, unlike busing, it's uniform. Like busing can be biased, or you can have perceived bias on the whole thing. Rail, you see it, you can understand it. It's like it appeals to a mass audience, but we're just not going to get there. There's just too much. There's too much red tape, too much to be able to go through. It's going to be too expensive to be able to realize it in actuality.
Well, so bringing it back,
Yep.
the position being that cars are so expensive simply because of the regulation.
Yes.
What's super funny is now in this Democrat world, we're pushing for policies that promote, if not enforce, electric automobiles. And what's so funny is that there is, even though all of this is on the backs of slaved children that are mining your lithium, there is literally not enough lithium, period, for every person to have an electric car.
Yeah.
So here's your regulation pushing for a vehicle or a way of transportation, mode of transportation for the masses that not all of the masses could have the fruits of.
And I actually think, electric vehicles, so this goes counterintuitive to my point here. They cut out a lot of the regulation with electric vehicles by not having an internal combustion engine and not having all the parts associated with that.
Really?
So now the CAFE laws. Bush started it. I think Obama kept going with it. CAFE laws are one of the single most reasons why we don't.
What is that?
So CAFE, as it originally was started, is your fleet of automobiles have to hit a certain either like miles per gallon threshold or a like carbon emission threshold for the amount of space you take up as a vehicle. So my vehicles got a lot bigger.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so big. Yeah, it's like SUVs and stuff. Just kept like if you notice like cars in the early 2000s. Let's just start.
Yeah, Hummer 2. Go for it, baby.
Well,
2001 Hummer 2.
I don't know if that's necessarily the best example, but let's use like the Corolla, a vehicle that's been sustainable throughout the whole. It's been around prior to us being born and is now going to be in perpetuity after we're born or after our death. It's gotten bigger every year. And part of that is the larger vehicle.
The flying Corolla coming in 2044.
The larger the vehicle, the more they're able to pollute. And it's kind of a self-repeating cycle. So the market has noticed that cars, I want to be in a bigger vehicle because cars are getting bigger. Cars are getting bigger because they have to get bigger to be within the regulatory spectrum.
Wait. So explain that because I think I missed it.
Yep.
The vehicle has to be so big in proportion to the combustion engine?
To the amount it can pollute. So it's not necessarily.
Whoa.
It's not necessarily.
So they literally are just because this thing's polluting X.
Yeah.
We just make it bigger.
Yep.
The frame, that's easy shit. Yep. Metal. You're just extending the metal. Yep. We're making the cab bigger. You're literally making the vehicle bigger because the engine needs to fit this.
Well, not necessarily.
I'm sorry.
It needs to pollute. It's all about pollution on that point. So you have that. That's why cars started getting bigger, and then it's just a self-repeating cycle. So when I think it was Obama that came in. So I think when Bush had it, it was just a vehicle in general. I think when Obama came in, it had to be like a fleet, like the whole car, like the whole you can't just have 20 large trucks. You have to have something to offset that for the carbon emissions, and that's why cars get bigger. And with that, you don't have the efficient, or not necessarily efficient, but like reliable engines. Like there's a way to make an engine reliable, but it pollutes a little bit more just because it's simpler in design. It's not getting rid of all the pollutants like catalytic converters. Catalytic converters are so expensive because it takes a lot of like rare earth metals to be able to get rid of that pollutants that they're trying to get rid of. That's why people are stealing catalytic converters, because it's a finite resource.
That's what the doc always said.
Yeah.
From whatever, Back to the Future.
Back to the Future? You talking about fine earth metals? Which one was that? Was that part 1, part 2, or part 3?
The catalytic converter. We need to get the catalytic.
So you have that, and it's just a self-repeating cycle. Now, I think part of it is the automobile industry going. I have a lot of respect for Tesla because they're one of the very few automobile manufacturers that is direct to, like, not even direct to consumer, but like mass appeal, that started from scratch. Outside of Tesla, what's the last direct, like, start from scratch automobile manufacturer? Ford?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm talking on my ass.
And,
I'm
how long ago was that? So it's like, so there's a lot of like supercar manufacturers that pop up every now and then, but it isn't, if I'm selling a car for $1 million, I don't need to make a lot of them to make the same thing. And also my overhead just isn't that much. I don't need to, we can build a supercar right in this studio right here and make a whole brand out of ourselves.
Right.
Called the Rethink Mobile. But it's like far like mass consumers. But the reason they got around that is like electric motors are not regulated to the same rates that internal combustion motors are. So they're able to they can avoid so much red tape. They just have to have the chassis, make sure the brake lights are all in spec. That's easy stuff. So they're able to do that. And I think the next kind of revolution with cheap cars is going to be with electric cars.
Okay.
So we're going to get there.
But what about back to the lithium point?
Yeah.
We don't have enough. There is literally not enough lithium for all the batteries for every person to have one.
We don't. I don't think we're trying to have I don't think legitimately, realistically, manufacturers trying to have everyone have one.
Well, so could we agree that it requires a future community where maybe the wealthy, but also hopefully a mass, has electric cars, but it would have to be in balance with still generic, as we know it, automobiles, the combustion engines.
It solved this a lot quicker. So it's not the cars that pollute like a whole bunch. Comparatively, so like the tanker ships that go back and forth between China and the United States to Europe, those pollute more than anything else. It's like factories and those things pollute more than like any other car. You could have all the cars in the world. They don't pollute as much as... Because when you're
those cars don't pollute as much as cows fart, right? That's what they say about... The globe is melting because cows are farting, David.
I guess on the methane part of it, but that's a different thing. But you have the tanker ships that carry the cargo back and forth. That's when you get in international waters, there's no laws. That's by design.
Isn't that wild?
But it's also not great for everyone else in the world except for the people operating the things that are going on.
Except for the Somalian pirates.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that actually works that way. But it's the companies that have the ships that operate them. It's like cruise ships will throw garbage off of the ship when they're so far. Like, that's awful. I hate that so much.
That's awful. And the trashiest human. Like, I'm gonna double down.
Cruise ship people are the worst people in the world. Yes.
I'm doubling down on the Bill Burr bit. If I was president, I would give everybody a free cruise and then sink all the cruise ships. Because all the people going on cruise ships, we could do without. I stand by that. It's
such a lazy way to travel.
Yeah. So back to part 1. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch part 1. But for all the people who cannot afford their voter IDs and are dumping their waste because they are cruise ship people,
oh man,
sink the cruise ship. Oof. I could do without.
Well, at least let them vote, though.
Sink the cruise ship.
At least let them vote.
I vote, sink the cruise ship.
But it's such a lazy way to have a vacation. I get the appeal.
It is the says the guy the first time he leaves the country, goes to Japan, cannot speak to a lick of person, and yet I'm going to take a cruise. Yeah, I'm saying sink that ship.
It's a lazy way to travel.
I think
cruise ships are just... I at least get the appeal of the all-inclusive resort.
Of course.
I get the appeal of that. I get the appeal of cruise ships too, but it's just a lazier method of doing that.
Hey, Disney guy.
Oof.
Can I tell you something crazy?
All right.
So me and my sister, we go on the Disney cruise. This has to be like 2005.
So are you sinking yourself on this cruise?
Oh, I'd only be so lucky.
And your sister. Like,
I think the ship we were on should have been sunk. It was of the only cruises I've ever gone on. I think I've only been on one other, but I don't think I have. I think this is the only cruise I've ever been on. I can't remember. In my brain, this is the only cruise that exists. The trip was at the beginning of the Disney cruise when they first started this like new expansion of the franchise.
okay.
And it was great, but also to a child, to us, it was prison because the cruise was made for parents to disband their children and have their fun. And that's not how our family operates. My parents, I think, to their own disadvantage, never took a trip without my sister and I. As a family, as a nuclear unit, it was a beautiful thing to us as the kids. But I also think my parents needed at least the break to grow intimately closer in their own right. So I think there's a balance to it. I don't think what they did was perfect. But when I'm going to take the position that the privilege is not your skin tone, but it is a nuclear family with two parents that care about you. In that light, I think selfishly it couldn't have been a better place.
Yeah.
We go on this ship, and me and my sister have this understanding and how things have always been that mom and dad are here for us and they want to spend time with us. So we get pawned off onto this this daycare, and it took 4 hours for us to get in contact with our parents. And it made my parents livid to find out that it took my sister crying for me to be like, I'm like, 8. My 5-year-old sister's crying. We need our parents. I don't care what you do, because I know my dad doesn't drink. My dad doesn't my dad's pissed that he's sitting at a pool without us. Call the man. And they wouldn't call him. It was hell. Anyway, so it was already a cruise that was catered towards the parents, babysitting the nuisance of children. And what I take away from that cruise was how much of a hell it was being a child in prison. Aside from that. You know what's funny?
All right.
That ship had a stop in the Bahamas. So this day, we're supposed to go to Little St. James Island. That's Jeffrey Epstein's island.
Oh.
So
the plot thickens.
The Disney cruise spends a day at Little St. James Island where you play on the island with the Disney characters. And I vividly remember deeply interrogating my father why we are in the middle of the Caribbean. It's beautiful. Not a cloud in the sky. But for some reason, we can't dock on Jeffrey Epstein's island because of the weather. The waves and the break is too much for us to be able to dock to go play on Little St. James. So what we signed up for was scuba diving and playing on Jeffrey. This is the Disney cruise at its onset. We were, of the itinerary, playing on Jeffrey Epstein's island, but magically on a gorgeous day, we can't dock and we can't make it. Who knows what transpired to where we can't make it? Thank the Lord above that something stopped my sister from being stolen at that island where we weren't scuba diving with pedophiles. But I just want to throw out there that the only cruise I've ever been on, which is the glorious Disney cruise, which is there for the betterment of children and people, it stopped at Jeffrey Epstein's island. And nothing will ever take that away from me. It's in our pamphlet. It's literally like if you were to go to our little
it's a shame
the
you couldn't
reading
get a photo
material.
Next to the what's that iconic
man.
building?
Yeah.
The blue and white building right there. Boy, that'd been a child relic. You wouldn't be able to appreciate it until now.
I took a picture in front of the box the kids were sacrificed in.
Look at that.
I'm I'm just saying.
It's a modern monument now.
That business, like where those lines meet, should really concern people.
Probably. Well, so that's why Disney has its own island now that controls. It's real weird. Disney, it's a company town over in Orlando. Intentionally, they bought enough land where they can control. They have literally enough acreage to have their own small government.
How crazy is that? Which good for them.
It's
called
crazy.
Money. I don't agree with it.
It's a good thing they actually do good. Well, they manage that town fairly well.
I mean, they make trans kid videos or movies. I mean, you saw the Elements. What is it? What's this new movie that just came out? I have not seen it.
Well,
I haven't seen the movie. I just know it's
Elements. It's bombing at the box office.
Thank God. That's what you get for having a trans character. Or what is it? I just want to watch Toy Story. Woody does not need to be sexually, fluid. So the water guy in the Element show movie is sexually fluid. Well, Toy Story is not the same story if Buzz is sexually fluid. It's just not. Actually, I don't know what Buzz Lightyear bones, but what I do know is his boning does not impact the story.
Well, Buzz Lightyear was ethnically fluid. Do you not remember Toy Story 3? He had the Mexican mode, and he became. That's a little racist. No one really brings that up now.
Why is that racist?
That's a little
racist. It's a toy made for the market. That was the joke.
What is? It's true. And it had
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
It's the same toy.
Ooh, that's a.
I like that.
I don't know if that gets passed now. I don't know if that.
What?
If they do the same scene now, like, all right, I got a great scene. We're gonna make a toy a different ethnic character. Not by changing skin color.
All it was they pushed a button and he spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
Which to me, any toy in America, it's not far-fetched for it to appeal to both markets.
Oh no, not at all. You think they have that with like a trans doll? You have like a flip a switch or a boy, flip a switch or a girl?
It's an innie or an outie. You could poke it in.
That's even better. That's a bit more intuitive.
Woody's a guy until you push it in, and then it's like softy. So the reason I kind of took us down this road,
all right,
because obviously, David, we're gonna have to do another episode, another day where we go into the envelope of mystery. But before the first episode, when we were just chopping it up, I wrote down one question.
Ooh, what's your question?
And it ties into exactly this discourse.
Okay.
And as somebody that's passionate in this realm, I'm hoping you could try to convince me.
Okay.
Why should I support Disney? I think they are a propaganda arm of our world. I think they are. I'll never forget being in college, sitting next to one of my buddies, and I go, how much do you think Disney's worth? It's when they bought Star Wars. I go, they got to be worth so much. They're everything. Mm-hmm. And then you look it up and you go, what? And then that same inquiry, we were at $2, which is like two spots over from here. Yeah. And I'm sitting there and I go, okay, same line of thought. First off, what's Disney worth? And it's like, X and billions of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Then $300 billion, whatever it is. Then I go, wow, that's stupid money. Yep. That's stupid money. I can't even relate to it. Now my next question is, if that's what Disney's worth, what are the richest entities in the world? Out of the 10, 8 of them were banks. 6 of them were Chinese. 3 of them were American. And one of them wasn't a bank, and it was General Electric. So all of the richest entities in the world are banks, except for the one company that owns all the energy in the world. So I say this because Disney is invested in propaganda, but also they are an entity to where they are richer than a vast majority of countries, which makes them a significant economic player. So in the same vein where, I was going to use the wrong scenario. I was going to talk about Universal. So related to,
Keep going.
You can have something like Universal where they create Fast and Furious. They sell it to the public because you're all stupid and you keep buying. At the same time, they cut out in the last movie that it had to deal with Taiwan and a location was stopping in Taiwan. Then, who's the guy that says he's invisible?
John Cena.
John Cena goes and
apologizes to...
First, he does press, and all he does is acknowledge that the movie has a location. Oh, no. What he says is, I am so... because the first place to view the movie is Taiwan. So he goes, I cannot wait to see how Taiwan reacts to our movie. And then China steps in and shuts him up and is upset that he recognized Taiwan as a nation. And then, because Vince McMahon at the WWE trained him to speak Mandarin, he goes on TV and in Mandarin apologizes to the Chinese government and the Chinese people for calling Taiwan a country.
Did he do that in a TikTok?
That was like, I think, an Instagram post. Same deal.
Was it Instagram? It'd have been on brand.
That
Should have been TikTok. It really should have been TikTok.
You're right.
He's not getting his cross branding correctly. He needs to take another class.
Come on, stay out of the American companies. But here's my position: when it comes to China, or when it comes to Disney, there are multiple iterations where they push their self-righteous agenda on us and then cut that out when it comes to selling it in the global market, because that's where the big money's at. And they cater to Saudi Arabia, they cater to China, they cater to all these countries, but they'll change their logo to rainbow for just a month. Why should I pay into a company that is trying to turn my kids gay and trans, that is pushing a weird queer agenda that is... It has an agenda. Whether it's queer or not, it has an agenda. Why would I support a company? Universal? I've never seen a Minions movie with an agenda. So where is my need to support Disney? Because to me, they've become powerful like a country and trying to instill their will on the people like they're our country.
So I have the daunting task of defending multinational corporation Disney. Okay, all right, I'll give it a shot here. So I think Disney is still very innovative in the film industry. Let's go entertainment. I got to break these out in a couple different.
Totally.
Because it's a very large company, so we got to do. I like
that.
The things going on in, I guess, the press and like the comic books world with now that Disney owns, it's not necessarily the same thing that's going on like the theme parks. Some of them may cross communicate and you have some synergy, but not necessarily all of them. So let's start with the film things. So Disney bought Marvel. Marvel had the grand plan of doing the cinematic universe, and it's not necessarily new, but I think they executed it in such a way,
the best way. I think so far.
In a way,
find me a franchise that did it like they did. Period.
In a way we haven't seen.
You can hate superheroes.
Oh yeah,
Harry Potter couldn't do it. Lord of the Rings couldn't do it. There's no franchise that has ever made a multi-decade story.
Yep. Well, there is one. The original multi-movie, franchise, Godzilla. So the first in the 60s. So most people don't know this.
Go check out episode 1.
All of them, well, not all of them, but up till about 74. So starting in 1954 to 1974, they're all in the same universe. They all reference each other. It's not quite to the same. They're not fourth wall breaking the same that Marvel is, but definitely it's one of the first. And also Universal, the Universal Monsters. They had that. Remember Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein?
Really?
That's the same. That's the same multiverse. So they're not pioneers in it, but the execution and the way they go about it is definitely how they marketed it and how they got people to care. They got everyone. So remember back when Infinity War came out?
Right.
Everyone's like, "Ooh, all right, I'm gonna watch this." Everyone's gonna watch this. It was a discourse. I think everyone had the agreement at the same time for the most part. It's quality. This is quality movies. And then Endgame came out.
and it was shit.
Oh. Is that a hot take? You don't like Endgame?
Dude, how about this? I have a friend that does not like Marvel, does not like the superhero movies. He has found a mild affection for the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
I dragged him to the Infinity War after already watching it, and he's like, that's probably the coolest movie I've ever seen.
Okay.
That was the coolest movie I've ever seen. Yeah. I watched The Avengers 1 when I was a senior in high school.
Yep.
I left school early. I waited in line.
Okay.
Dude, they filmed that here in Cleveland.
Yep.
I was there when they filmed it downtown.
Yep.
I was a child obsessed. I watched the Iron Man. I watched the Hulk. There were years of movies leading up to the biggest movie, the biggest event, The Avengers. I'm sorry. Infinity War was amazing.
Yep.
It was everything. All that time I invested, I kept thinking, okay, this is leading to something awesome.
See the
this is
characters
leading to
interact
something
together,
badass. And it did. Oh, yeah. It delivered. Here's what I'll say. Endgame ruined one of the greatest movies ever.
Ruined.
In my mind. Because Thanos won.
Yeah.
He destroyed.
Yeah.
And within the first 5 minutes, we got more feminist bull. That wait, if Captain Marvel could have done all this from the beginning, what the hell were we doing? It was a joke, dude. Yeah. They ruined it in the first 5 minutes.
A lot to unpack here. But anyway,
Yes.
I want to start with a story. So I had a buddy. Him and I were real excited to watch Endgame. And we're sitting there. We pre-gamed for it, as one does. And he had to get up to go to the bathroom within the first 5 minutes of the movie. And he's like, "Should I get up?" I'm like, "Yeah, nothing's gonna happen in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Nothing's gonna happen."
The whole movie happened in the first 5 minutes.
So he comes back. He's like, "What I miss?" I'm like, If I told you, you wouldn't believe me. You wouldn't believe me. It's like
they fucking hacked Thanos' head off.
They killed Thanos. Like, what?
In the first 5 minutes.
It's like you're not gonna believe me on
the
this
most
one.
bad. It took 10 years to build a villain.
Yeah.
They hacked his head off in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. I still think Endgame's great. It doesn't punch quite as hard as Infinity War, and you're not going to have that. I don't think it's ever going to design to be punch as hard.
You're right.
You have Iron Man die.
Infinity War was meant to be the punch, and I agree with you totally.
It was meant because you had the snap. Because I would have been pissed. So I was dreading the whole time in the theater. Like, oh, they're going to stop the snap. They're going to stop the snap. They're going to stop it.
Hell no. And that's what made that movie badass. That all of us left the theater like, oh my God. Half the people are dead.
They had such confidence to just go ahead and do that. Such confidence.
So awesome.
And it's going to be hard. It's always going to be hard to follow that up. You don't ever want to follow up a great comic. If you're ever on the, what all comics say, I don't want to follow up. Jesus.
Dave Chappelle was movie 1. And movie 2 was never going to hold up.
I might as well stop. Like, if you're doing karaoke, someone's just killing it. You don't want to be the guy.
Yeah, you don't do karaoke after Adele.
No. But let me defend Disney, though. So I still think they have the ability to be innovative in movies. Because they have too much money not to be.
But they're recreating every movie they've ever made.
They're doing that.
What is one unique movie that doesn't have to do with a trans water character?
So I go.
What's something in the last 2 years?
So I think Zootopia is decent.
That's not 2 years. What is the last 2 years of Disney?
Well, you're giving me COVID.
Let me give you COVID. I'm giving you 3. 2020 to today, give me a Disney movie that isn't a live-action remake of an animated movie that they're also f***ing up the remake of. Name one that isn't a Black Mermaid or 101 Dalmatians, or pick one that isn't taking a story you already wrote and pushing your propaganda agenda and is unique, new, original.
So I'll say Cruella. You brought 101 down. I almost forgot about that. So Cruella. So they took a villain, killed puppies. Their whole thing was killing puppies and made it likable. So you're not gonna redo that character in real life and actually make it the crux of your story. So how do we change that up? So what I really liked about Cruella was like the fashion scenes where she's competing against the other fashion person. I think they went in a direction with it that I don't think they stuck the landing. I think they started off on a really good set piece. I think what's that actress's name?
From Superbad, the hot redhead, whatever her name is.
She's from Superbad. She's from Easy A. Yeah,
Easy A.
What the hell? It always bothers me when I don't know the name of the
pause,
person.
I'm gonna look it up for you.
Well, I'll keep talking. So you have you have her, and she goes through the whole story, and you have sympathy for her through the whole thing. So unlike some feminist stories, what I don't like about the Star Wars and Rey is there's just no overcoming obstacles, and if the obstacles are there, it's
Emma Stone.
Emma Stone. So the obstacles are kind of minor. She kind of gets beaten down a little bit, maybe not as much as you probably would like it, like in a male-dominated story.
Like a villain to get what they deserve. The person that kills puppies.
Well,
I don't want them beaten too much.
Well, but they made a puppy killer likable. They absolutely made that the villain likable.
Okay, here's what I want to give you.
Okay.
I'm going to concede this.
Okay.
I did not watch that movie.
Okay.
I believe I'm not going to. Honestly,
take
I
my
can't
word for it
remember.
here.
I cannot remember. Part of me believed there was something was going on at that time where something I'm going to do, so here's where I'm at about.
All right.
A crux of my position forever in a capitalist society has always been you vote with your views, you vote with your dollars.
Yep.
There was something about that movie that I didn't support, whether it was just Disney in general. I can't remember.
Yep.
Because I just don't give enough of a shit. So you have something there.
Okay.
That is a unique story. It's new, kind of like Hook. Everybody's had Peter Pan. But what made Hook so special was it was your classic story with a new twist or a new take on it.
Yep.
I give credence to that, truthfully. But is there something of Disney that is original, that is not a new perspective of the same thing? Again, even take, what's that movie with the chick from Parks and Rec that was all the emotions in your brain? It was an animated movie.
Inside Out.
Inside Out.
Yeah. That goes
Whether
beyond
that's
your,
it's a Pixar movie, but or whatever, DreamWorks, whatever the hell it was.
It's also outside your.
All I'm saying is, here's a movie that is totally and utterly original and unique to itself.
Yep.
We could talk till we're blue in the face. Good movie, bad movie, what we liked about it, whatever. Irrefutably unique and good.
Yep. Well,
what's one that isn't piggybacking off of what Walt Disney drew up?
Yeah.
And what the writers of 1980 and 90 created. What is new?
I think Onward. So Onward was the Pixar movie with Tom Holland and
I just gotta Google it.
Chris Pratt. They were brothers.
Cheers.
They were.
Cheers. That was fun.
There were fantasy characters in a modern world, and I think it's so that came out during the COVID time. I don't know if it was. It was 2020. I remember it was 2020.
2020, literally.
I don't know. I wouldn't put it up against Toy Story 2, or even Toy Story 4. I think Toy Story 4 is actually pretty cool.
I love that.
I didn't.
It wasn't the best. Listen,
it wasn't the best.
But I did like that movie. It was cute. It was unique.
It was
special.
You somehow made a movie after everyone agreed this is
It's
a great
over.
ending. We don't need another one. I am satisfied with the ending of this characters, and they managed to make a decent movie out of it.
I think it was.
Is it probably the worst Toy Story? Yeah, that's still a high bar to climb.
I don't know, man.
Is your movie?
I think 4 was better than 3, personally.
That's a hot take.
3. What you won't take away from 3 was that all of us truly thought they were about to kill the characters.
Yeah.
All of us in unison were in a theater like, they're about to do this. They're about to kill all the characters.
That was the whole theme of the movie. Is we're done. You're being set aside for new toys.
I will not discredit how special that was. It was unique. We all felt it.
Yeah.
That, I think, is what makes the third movie what it was. I do think, though, the fourth movie was like, I'm not even this type of person. I'm more of your, like, I'm not a super emotional guy. Mm-hmm. But the fourth one was like a touchy-feely, like you just loved it. I don't know if it was a bit of nostalgia, but also it was what you grew up with, but these characters living like a more, not adult, but like they were making real, I don't know. I'm speaking out of turn.
It's the other perspective of, so Toy Story 3 was all about, well, does my life have meaning if I'm not with a kid? And Toy Story 4 is, well, my life can have meaning without the kid. It's the juxtaposition to the way the last movie ended.
Wow. Yeah.
So you have, that whole story, I mean, that's why you have the Bo Peep character. Don't have a kid, I'm happy. And Woody, well, at the end, I think that still punches almost as hard. Not as hard as.
Come on, yeah.
Not as hard, but it punches harder than the ending of 2 or 1. Because the ending of 2 or 1 are actually pretty happy. It's like, oh, everything's the way you want it to be. With 4, it's like, I leave Buzz.
Yeah.
I left Buzz.
And we pass it off to a stranger.
Yep. And I'm going to go my own way. That's powerful.
Wild.
That's powerful stuff.
And I'm sorry, dude, there isn't any of those other 3 that left you with an ending like that.
I think it's the furthest character arc. Because Toy Story 1, you have Woody goes from, I am the main toy to, well, I can probably share this. Toy Story 2 is, oh shit, I gotta save
a world. Yeah,
I gotta save the favorite toy and then learn a whole world of how I could be the greatest thing, but I choose to come back. It's almost like Toy Story is kind of like a God complex a little bit. It's like Andy's God. Toys. Oh boy,
I just want to be God's favorite.
There's a lot of religious. There's some religious undertones with that. It's interesting. If you really start thinking about it, like, ooh.
But dude,
that's crazy.
Let's agree. We just spent a lot of time talking about a series that world renowned, incredibly impactful.
Yep.
Comes from a period where, like, Bug's life, I think, is the greatest metaphysical and philosophical story any kid can be exposed to. There is a scene where the grasshopper is explaining to the other grasshoppers how stupid but important the ants are. Yep. And he goes up to the wall and he goes, listen, you could take an ant and it's a wall full of seeds, and he throws a seed at the guy and he goes, 1 seed ain't shit and it hurts. 2 seeds ain't shit. But and he breaks the knob and he goes, when all the seeds come flying, we got a problem.
Yep.
And so we got to keep those stupid ants at bay. Man, when I tell you, having some life perspective and going back to that movie, that's like the most. I love that movie.
It's a good movie.
Love that movie. One of the best. Tell me something like that. Onward will never be in a conversation of one of the best. So you can take a series of time, Bug's Life, Toy Story. You could go down the line.
So let me ask you this. So at what point do you think, so what's the turning point of Disney?
I think Disney became too big and corporatized to where now you've got a board of investors you have to appeal to. Yeah. A producer can't just make a film for film's sakes. Yeah. The producer has to appeal to the board, has to take notes from the Writers Guild that is Disney, and then they have to make their vision fit within Disney's goal. Yep. And before, there was no goal. It was just make entertainment.
Well, where do you think
now there's a goal.
Where do you think that, like, what movie do you think was the last kind of stand of that original vision? Because I don't know. I don't even know if I know the answer to that.
I don't.
You'd
because
obviously
I think it's been a blur of things.
You think you go pre or post Marvel?
Let's take a look at something. Take like WALL-E.
Okay.
WALL-E is a very real prediction of our future.
It's very anti-corporate. Very anti-corporate.
Also, stop being a fat schlub piece.
Yeah.
Kinda, right?
Yeah.
So, nothing like we're pushing today. Live your truth. If your truth is sticking an iPad in your face and being couch locked, do you know how many people that work for me that can't use the stairs, and it's simply because one day the stairs was too hard for them, so they started taking the elevator, and now they are incapable of stairs? Yeah? So I'm of the belief that we have a system where it was kind of like a sliding scale, where there was a period where there were fruitful movies mixed with the bullshit, to the point where now we didn't even notice the sleight of hand. We're in nothing but bullshit.
Yeah. I think the difference, if I were to point to it, probably be like Zootopia. So I think they took a lot. So I think the Disney people took a lot of the Pixar talent and just went, well, we're just gonna make Disney films. So you have Frozen, quality.
Do you know Frozen was created so if you Google searched Frozen Disney, it stopped bringing up search results for Disney's head being in a vault somewhere?
Oh, really?
Walt Disney, just like who's the baseball player?
That's one of those like real.
Do you know who the baseball player is?
I know what you're talking about though, but it's the. I wish we had a Jamie pull this up.
Yeah. Hold on one second.
But the Disney, that's one of the original conspiracy theories.
It's not a conspiracy. He has his head in a freezer.
Does he have his?
Just like Ted Williams.
Where?
So Ted Williams.
There's never been a photo.
It
of
was
that?
literally the same time. Yeah, I dare you to try to get it.
Where does that exist? That's like the Marilyn Monroe or the. No, not Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Manson thing. Like, he took out the rib to suck his own dick. It's like, where's Walt Disney's head? Where's that at? You think it's at the bottom of Cinderella's castle? Well, do you think he's Disneyland or Disney World? He's probably a Disneyland guy.
Does David have a point here? You do.
Yeah.
Where is it? If it exists, that means this thing is physically in a block of ice somewhere.
Somewhere.
All I know is, just come on, unlock. I'm just trying to find a date. Ted Williams did it in, the 60s or whatever it was. So one of the best baseball players of all time hacked his head off around the same time Disney died. So whether or not you want to believe it, major powerful celebrities are known to be doing this at the same period of time where they were of the belief, if I cut my head off and put it in a freezer, someday in the future of science, they will be able to reattach my head and bring me back to life. That was the concept. All I know is, whether it's true or not, that his head is in a freezer, which I am of the belief it is. Whether or not it is, all I do know is the movie, the franchise Frozen, was created to push the search results of Disney's head. They just don't want you Googling Disney being a frozen head. Whether it's true or not, this was purposely calculated
to
hide
understand
that.
There's that conspiracy theory. They understand.
So whether it's true or not, this franchise was created to suppress the conspiracy theory.
Imagine the sad reality where you go ahead and do that, and then you come back to a world like, fuck, I don't agree with any of this.
They're all trans.
Jesus.
Shit.
This sucks.
A Nazi comes back and half the people are gay and half of them are trans. Can you kill me?
bitch,
I liked
man.
it when Disney was also Nazi.
How immediately does he regret that decision? Does he have enough ego to I'm gonna ride this one out for a while, or does he just go, I'm done? That's not what I want. Because it's a pretty quick decision.
You're right.
It's a couple days. Because he's not day one. Everyone's kind of normal. They see Disney. Oh, well, Disney. Let me show you what's going on with Disneyland. And he gets subtle hints. Because it's not all that obvious. Especially, if they do it in June.
Right.
If they do it in June, they see the rainbow thing. What's going on with the rainbow thing? Some poor soul's got to tell Walt Disney, hey,
buddy.
This is for the gay people. I'm like, you mean the gays?
Wait, you're saying Disney has a pride parade?
You're saying they're people? What's going on here?
They're people.
Someone's got to tell them that poor soul. Is that hell for a Disney adult?
Hell for Walt Disney as an adult.
To give it's hell for both people, and it's for the opposite directions. I'm a Disney adult. I just revived Walt Disney. I'm going to show him around Disneyland. I'm going to show him all the wonderful things that have happened here in the 100 years that he's not been around. Oh boy, and he kills himself. Wow, that's I
gotta laugh. Disney comes alive for 2 minutes, and he's like, "Wait, you turned Disney into what?"
Yeah,
just immediately off himself.
Done. But I don't know. I still think he has enough ego to stick it out for a little bit. And then does he find excuse to just fuck this COVID thing? Or,
So let me
it's really
ask you
getting me.
this.
All right.
Because I want to get back to the crux of our question.
Okay. Yeah, I think we've strayed away.
We've really gotten into Disney talk.
But
I want to
defend
ask
Disney.
you this.
Okay.
What do you think China is a good actor? Do you think they care about people for people's sake?
Well, not the government.
I was going to say, how about you ask the Uyghurs?
Yeah, the government, no. I think the people of China, fine.
I think the mass of people in China aren't actually allowed to consider that.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think they actually are allowed to care about the public because they've never been given the freedom to care about the public.
I think also in the same breath, they don't think Taiwan's a country either. I think it's a very popular opinion in China.
Can you explain to me why I should support a corporation that caters to an evil entity, and not just China, but Saudi Arabia and other countries, also pushes propaganda that divides us and pushes us to hate each other, that is pushing your children to cut their wieners off, that is pushing your children to doubt their parents and question their teachers and separate themselves from the nuclear family? Why should I support such a company?
So I think it's very difficult to live an economically moral life.
Cheers.
Wow. Just in general. So that's a loaded question.
Screw you with such a cool answer. That is a good answer.
It's hard to do that. Wow. Especially as we're getting everything's consolidating. So there's very, very few entities that are just onto themselves, that are popular, that you're able to access, that have some sort of. Because it's not just I can watch independent movies all the time, but there's movies that have like a cultural effect. So there's a difference between watching whatever on some streaming service versus watching the next Marvel movie or watching the next Star Wars movie. So there is a facet of a little bit supporting what you like, but there's also when it goes under scrutiny, it just doesn't hold out. So you have a phone that's the lithium's mined by children over in South Africa. Well, are you gonna not use that phone? Not really.
And let's also go back to the philosophical question Joe Rogan always poses. He goes, "This is a multi-millionaire talking." He goes, "I'd much rather pay 4 or 5 times what I pay for an iPhone.
Yeah.
If I knew it was being paid to a person that was getting a livable wage and blah blah." It's like it's easy to say when you can afford to say that.
Yeah, and we don't even.
I want that too, Joe. I also can't afford a $10,000 iPhone.
Yeah, we don't even have that option either. I'd be curious to see
Cheers.
if the option was presented to us.
What do you think that would cost? Again, we don't live in that world, so we really can't predict.
Well,
I would imagine
we've seen it. So back in 2014, 2015, there was something called the Moto X.
Okay.
And the whole
and this was by Motorola.
By Motorola, and they
Chinese, right? Or is that Korean?
I think it's Korean.
Okay.
Motorola. Korean, Japanese.
Go ahead.
I know it's not Chinese. So they had it in Texas. They had the production facility, and they made the phones completely in Texas. I don't think it was anymore. It was still it was still right at the crux of the era of the $200. You remember the
Chinese?
It was Motorola Chinese.
Is
it Chinese?
No, wait. Motorola Mobility LLC, marketed as Motorola, is an American consumer electronics manufacturer primarily produce smartphones and other mobile devices running Android.
Yep.
It is a subsidiary of the Chinese multinational technology company Lenovo. So it's Chinese.
I don't know when
Motorola.
I don't know when that was bought. So what I can only talk in 2015 terms, but they did have an effort where they built everything in
America.
It was in Texas, I think specifically Texas.
Cool.
They built all but now the chips and stuff came from Taiwan, as most things do. But they did have that option. I think it was somewhat popular. I had one. I bought one. Not necessarily.
How much more was it than the rest of the phones on the market?
Well, see, this is the problem because it was still in that time where you spend like $200 and you get like the 2-year contract, and that's your phone. So it was under that era. So you spent the $200.
So phones were still very reasonably priced.
It was subsidized by the larger expense of the cellular service.
Yeah,
because that's when the cellular service was less regulated. So if you own now anymore, that's why we have Boost Mobile, Mint Mobile, all these things, because they have to give out broadband space to different companies. So the towers are decentralized in a way to a little bit. So that's why like phone stuff got like cheaper. So a little bit of nationalization, but is it regulation or deregulation? I'm not 100 or nationalization. It's a little bit of mixed.
Yeah.
Probably not deregulation, but it's regulation and nationalization of the towers that made things. So the new thing is, well, you buy the phone now because it's all the phone manufacturers, because it was just a different market back then. But they did have the option, and I just don't think it was a popular phone because it wasn't a popular phone. Samsung was just better at marketing their phone. iPhone was better at marketing their phone. But we don't have too many A to B comparisons. We have that sometimes with automobiles, and I don't know, Toyota's just better at making cars than most of the automobile manufacturers. They're just more reliable. Their resale value is better. Sometimes they're not as exciting sometimes. Like I can get a Charger, Challenger. Oh, man, those are great cars. I love them. But they're not going to be as reliable as a Toyota Camry, 4Runner, or what have you. So the
As a Challenger driver, the man is right.
They're nice. I like them.
Listen,
like 'em.
that is my favorite toy.
Yeah.
You're very right. You're very right.
But we just don't. It's so hard to live in economic under scrutiny. The thing, your values and what you don't believe in, what you believe in, sometimes just aren't always presented in the products you buy. So, like the water bottle, is that made by a morally ethical business owner? Is this whiskey? Do you agree with the whiskey? The person who owns the whiskey's values, the bottler. It just doesn't, like the label printer. At a certain point, you can't scrutinize to the point where else I just can't buy anything unless it's I make it myself and I source it myself.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because this is just taking us to another track, but of the same vein.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on enjoying the art of an artist that becomes corrupt?
Yeah.
Right? So people question, can you still listen to Michael Jackson when you see what his life was? Or whether you believe, like if you're somebody that believes that that's what his life was. Or, like how do you separate the artist from the art?
That's a hard one. So, like paintings and such, a lot easier. Because you're going to the
just
museum.
looking at the painting.
You're just looking at it. But with like Michael Jackson, if I throw
It's
it up on
Michael
Spotify.
Jackson singing.
Yeah, if I throw it up on Spotify, I hear it. I enjoy it. It's like, oh, boy. That's a hard one. Like books, a little bit easier. But like things, you're like, the artist is it's the whole package.
Right. Listen, we cannot deny how much we just had a discourse on how Toy Story has an impact and how much socially we were invested into Marvel.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is the same entity that you could not subscribe to it if you do. But how does somebody that believes this is pushing a dark agenda on our children still go, but Toy Story is valuable, that I still love Marvel movies, that I still appreciate Hulu, which they own, has a documentary that they produced and released about Jeffrey Epstein's Island.
Yep.
So there's something to, like, you have the value, you have content that I like, you have virtues that I support, but then it's the same entity and then when I'm the same human being that says you vote with your views, you vote with your dollars, how do you stay true? My dad will look at me and go, you're going to have your friends over and watch UFC tonight on ESPN Plus, because ESPN owns all the rights to UFC, and I'm a huge UFC fan.
Yep.
You're going to go watch the UFC and pay into ESPN, but then say Disney's a bad entity. How do you live that world?
You can't. It's hard. Where I think the Michael Jackson thing gets a little bit more interesting, because he's the art and the artist, and it's everything. You're listening to him directly. So it's that one's a tougher one. I think sometimes you can separate the art from the artist. Other times it's harder, and it's more direct. It's like, I don't support Michael Jackson, I'm not going to listen to Michael Jackson. Just like someone who doesn't agree with the way Joe Rogan.
Exactly. Can I tell you a funny story?
All right.
We go to Austin, and I have a fraternity brother who's a good friend of mine, very good friend of mine, but we're very different. We could not be more different, but that's what I love about him. And we're in the pool at this bachelor party, and it was like pulling teeth getting these people to go to Joe Rogan's comedy club.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think you guys get it. This club opened 3 months ago. I've never been to Texas before. I've been to Texas once, and I wasn't cognitive to know I was there. I was so young. Yep. So what I will tell you is I'm not going to Texas and Austin 3 months after Joe Rogan opens a comedy club and not going to his comedy club. On the other hand, so I finally look at everybody and go, listen, I got a friend that lives in Austin. I'm either going with him or we're all going as a group, which I would prefer, but I'm not going to Austin and not doing this. Yeah. So the hand was forced. I finally pulled teeth. We got us there. My friend, on the other hand, his words, I'm a dirty liberal. That's because he's a funny cat. And he's like, dude, I'm a dirty liberal. I hate Joe Rogan. Well, he's also a man whore. So he emphasizes the dirty part. He's our guy. He's the Rat Pack. So he goes, I hate Joe Rogan, and I hate that you're making me go to his comedy club because I know I'm going to have an awesome time. Joe Rogan didn't say a peep while we were there. He wasn't an MC. You didn't even see a shadow of him. He didn't exist to us, but it was Joe Rogan's comedy club, and I know I am him. He's like, I'm about to go to this club with a guy that I hate. That was the whole joke. He's like, you're making me go to this club. I'm going to laugh and have an amazing time, and I'm going to have to go to my friends back in Colorado, in Denver, and explain to them how shitty of a club it was and how terrible a person it was, even though deep down I had an amazing time. And I looked at him and I go, Adam, you are sitting at my table because we bought the tickets, but like nobody's like we haven't. I go, I want you at my table so that way when you have an amazing time, you can admit like that was it. I want to experience it with you.
You better be laughing for real.
Of course, he makes the joke at the end. He's like, "God damn you, I had an amazing time," and blah 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 blah. But there's something to putting the shoe on the other foot. He does not subscribe to any. He thinks Joe Rogan is an evil conservative. And I'm laughing because you'll never catch Joe Rogan call himself a Republican or a conservative. He doesn't believe it. He's a little wrong. He's a little misguided. But he truly, truly believes in his heart of hearts that he's as Democrat and liberal as it gets, which is a little bit of a delusion. But
I'm surprised more people really haven't called him.
That's what he says and believe, which is part of the dude. He's worth billions because that's the snake oil he sold.
Yeah,
like he wins, you all lose. You're all idiots. You never called him out on it. You all bought into because just like Tulsi Gabbard, just like Robert Kennedy Jr., we like a person that calls himself liberal who also
over the other side
stands up against your BS.
Yeah.
Are they liberal? I believe they are. You don't. But that's part of the debate. Like, that's its own thing. Yeah. But there is a economic but social value in being the fox in the sheep's wool.
Yep.
So here's a guy that was dragged in this comedy club, had an awesome time, but hates who it supports, and what message it conveys. Yep. So I relate to putting the shoe on the other foot. It's the same vein. But my question is this. When it comes to somebody like Joe Rogan, Michael Jackson, XYZ, can you further flesh out then, is there a way to separate the art from the artist? How and should you?
It's difficult, especially if you like, I have sympathy for someone who just thought Michael Jackson is the greatest of all time, the GOAT of pop, and then finds out
he likes kids.
Yeah, it's not a good past. Boy, I mean, you still like the music.
Delicate and political way of putting it.
It's not good. I would have, let me just put myself in that person's shoes. It'd be hard to do that. It'd be hard. You're a fan. You're all of a sudden comes out. That's not great. I think in that point you have to separate you to a certain extent. You're just going to drive yourself nuts if you don't separate a little bit. Like if you hear it in a bar, you hear Thriller, you hear Billie Jean, you nod your head, like, all right. 'Cause at a certain point, you got to be self-aware that not everyone's going to have the same opinion as you do. Everyone's going to have their different spectrum of the art from the artist. And if depends on, how hardcore that artist fucked up or did whatever you didn't like to the point where, well, I'm going to start separating myself from them. Like we had with like Michael Jordan. Republicans buy shoes too. Still, too many people aren't going to go ahead and get rid of the artist from that art. I don't know if I'd call him an artist, but definitely a figure for the, like Jordan's and his basketball career in general. And I think conservatives, I think, do a little bit better job at this than liberals do, just depending on values and how they see it. Like LeBron, you see a lot more conservatives going like, I just don't like LeBron.
I hate him.
Even if they're like hardcore, Ohio, everything.
No, dude, there's no worse cancer to living here than people just attributing your existence, your locale, to Satan.
You think LeBron's Satan? That
might
be a hot take.
I'm not going down that road. But all I'm saying is, take someone like Dwight Howard.
All right.
He's a nobody. He also owns Japan right now. But he's a nobody in regards to how we look at celebrities. Mm-hmm. And yet, any person that touches him will die on the hill that he's the nicest person you'll ever meet.
Kind of like an Adam Sandler.
And again, I don't want to derail the conversation into anecdotes.
Yep.
But I personally have an interaction with both of them. But I also know so many people. There are very few people that have good things to say about LeBron in real life. He is totally separated from the art. There is never a basket. Listen, I need to kiss the toes the floor he walks on because he gave us pathetic losers in Cleveland a win. But we stand for nothing. We look at the Indians. The fact that they stole the Indians and then immediately we're all back again the next season, nobody here stands for anything. We have no backbone. And he will piss on us and come back, and every time we'll just pray and thank God that he came back. All I care about is you recognizing that you're worth millions of dollars because all of us buy a jersey with your name in it. So if you don't think you owe us for why you have multiple houses and a jet, then you don't deserve the houses and a jet. Because I say this all the time. If gravity stopped working for the Kanye Wests and the LeBron James of the world, our society moves on. But if gravity stopped working for the EMS, the nurses, the doctors, the lawyers, society comes to a halt. Yeah. That asshole is valueless to us. He promotes nothing. He also doesn't promote any social issues that aren't cancerous and divisive. He is a problem. I don't know. That in that realm, when you bring up that analogy, obviously you touched a trigger point.
I touched a trigger point here.
This dude is totally separated from his art. And it doesn't matter how many dunks or the block. Doesn't matter how many blocks he makes and how many championships I get. You are the worst thing to happen to America in the last 30 years, at least 15 years.
The worst thing to happen. That's a bold statement there. Worst thing in America in the last 15 years. We'll go 15 years.
Celebrity.
Worst
you're
celebrity
right,
in the last 15 years.
I'll acknowledge
well, you're outside of 9/11 at that point.
George Soros is significantly worse to America than a LeBron James. But I will say in regards to celebrities making real effect and damning us, he is proactively turning neighbors against each other. That is not a celebrity I support.
I don't know if I have enough talking points to refute this. There seems to be there's a lot of passion. There's a lot of passion.
Dude, he's trash.
There's a lot of anger here.
That dude is trash.
This might be a part 3, ladies and gentlemen, where we debate LeBron James. Gonna need a bit more information on him because I've only ever seen. Well, I guess I've only ever seen ESPN glowing. You see
ESPN
downtown
blows
Cleveland,
him.
right?
So, okay, I got to say, we have a whole envelope of things. We barely touched them.
We went on.
There's a
4?
few of these topics that kind of piggybacked off of each other.
Yeah.
One that I'm not going to pull that I thought we were going to touch upon that kind of you acknowledged it, but we didn't address, so I'm going to keep it in the envelope, is the railroads need to be nationalized. I almost am convinced the airline industry also needs to be nationalized.
Yes.
So that one I'm going to keep because you kind of touched upon it, but we didn't even discuss it.
Yeah.
Aside from that, we had about 3 other topics that we only pulled one thing and addressed a couple others. But David, this opens the door to the fact that we got to have you back on.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we got an envelope.
Oh, I'd love to be back
some
on.
awesome topics that we got to
You know
address.
which one I thought you would pull up just to ham it up for the podcast. The OnlyFans one.
Dude, I'm dying for it. Dude, we can't touch that.
We can't touch that.
That is a 40-minute conversation.
That's a
I have so because
think it's
I
a hot
also
take.
think what you acknowledge. Okay, I'm just gonna read it.
All right, read
So
it
that
out.
way-
Give a little
that way
tease for the audience
you
here.
all can get excited for the next time that my friend comes back on. OnlyFans is one of the most fascinating internet economies and has done more to take poor people out of poverty than any recent legislation passed. I'm going to present one position on that.
All right.
Okay, so I know we enticed you on the fact that we were going to touch upon OnlyFans. David couldn't hold himself. We touched on OnlyFans, literally and figuratively.
Bursting at the seams, really.
Bursting at the seams. So we go in on this topic, and it goes for a while. If you want to see the depths of our topic, the tagline being OnlyFans is one of the most fascinating internet economies and has done more to take the poor out of poverty than the recent legislations passed. If you want to hear our dialogue on that conversation, click on over to the Rethink Tank Clips YouTube channel, and you can see the full episode. Otherwise, guys, we're going to wrap this bad boy up. We didn't even get to David's topics. These are way too deep. We need to get you on so we can continue to siphon through.
we only got
all the-
just the tip, really.
Literally just the tip. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you giving me your
It's a
time.
pleasure to be here.
Guys, if we made you laugh, if we made you think, the best thing you can do to support this episode is share this link. If you liked it, that means somebody else you know will. And like I said, if we made you laugh, just send it around. Post it on your Facebook. Text it to your friend. That's what helps us in these algorithms. But again, otherwise, if you want to catch all of our content, you could check us out at our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. You can follow me at Kurgat57. If not, you can find the Rethink Tank at Rethink Tank. So, David, is there anywhere you'd like to direct them? You want them to find you anywhere?
Oh, no, I'll just be right back here.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. David, thank you for giving me your time.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Otherwise, guys, because we're going to have David on again, catch us on the next episode, and thank you for your time. Peace.
Look at